Gives of Empower to Engage Your World. Asha giving us Guilty while Soul gave us Hooked on You. Well, like I did say, conversations around the creative industry. Are you in the creative industry? Are you interested in getting into the creative space? What has your experience been? Are you a parent? Are you a guardian? Are you a teacher that is, slightly concerned about a young person wanting to drop out of school because they want to pursue the space? And pursuing the space, does it mean that I literally just lost my train of thought. It happened. What was I going to say?
Joining the industry, what does it mean, and
how to navigate that industry? Quite a number of people are finding themselves in a position where they are in the creative space. They do at some point in their lives express the fact that their creativity is not being taken seriously. Excuse me. While it is being taken seriously in certain quarters, it would seem as though when it comes to remuneration, or what do we call it? What's another word that we're looking at? Not remuneration, but the expectation. I mean, if you go to work and you're putting in the hours and you're giving whatever it is that you're expected. Like at the end of the month, for instance, there's an expectation for you to be receiving pay. Right. But it would seem as though in the creative space, there's a lot of debate with regards to no, do it for free, do it for exposure. Do it for your do it for your country. But in any case, that's the conversation that we are having. And like I said, the conversation has been fueled by the fact that a parent reached out to me to say that at their wit's ends because their son has dropped out of school and he's deciding that he's pursuing a career in music. I find that quite astonishing, and I'm hoping that our two guests will be able to assist all of us in understanding, and of course maybe answer the parent whom I had hoped would be here with his son, so that we can at least try and understand what the young man is saying and try and understand what the parent is saying. I do have in the studio Tshepo Maphanyane, whom like I said is the former director of Maitisong. I also have a young lady, Tawela, who quite recently had an exhibition. She is a photographer of note. And first of all, let me start off by asking, being in the creative space, did you guys go to school? Let's just start there. Maybe forget that you're in the creative space, but did you go to school? What did you do?
Tshepo.
Yeah.
And Gives FM listeners, yes, I went to school and I studied theatre. Yes.
Interesting. I like that.
Yeah. Up to postgraduate level. So I studied to the highest level.
It's very impressive.
Yeah.
I finished my Form 5 in 2016. I proceeded to Cape Town, did a brief course in photography. But I guess for me, because I was always self-taught, I just felt like I went there, learned what I had to learn, polished up what I needed to polish up, and now I'm working on what I've learned. And we'll see what the future holds.
Okay. So is education or school important, irrespective of which field you're going into, but specifically the creative space?
I would say it absolutely is. It's very important that people understand. Any other profession, you are just going to go in some kind of understanding of what it is that you're going into. So that's why you find that there's a lot of people who struggle to actually brand themselves and be able to succeed in the creative industries. So school is very, very important. But there are those people who are naturally talented. So that cannot be underestimated. But I think it's very important that people understand the business aspect of the creative arts. And so I think from that point of view, whether get talent naturally, I think somehow you need to be able to learn how to manage that talent so that it translates into business.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're in agreement?
I'm in agreement of that. Because actually for me, what I believe is When we look at, say, the creative economy, if we are going to call it the creative economy, and we're going to consider ourselves as business professionals, there is the talent aspect of it. For me, I guess it depends on how you define education. For me, it's passionate learning. And so that never stops. It never stops because you're in a classroom. I personally have committed to learning on personal branding, business management, social media management. I recently launched the website, learned a bit of coding, polished up my designing skills, my graphics designing skills, and so on and so forth. So I think what he's saying, it's very important to kind of have knowledge on the other aspects that go into the creative development of whatever craft you're in.
Okay. Well, 11:12 is your time. The conversation is around the creative industry, but specifically surviving in the creative industry. What are some of the tools you need to possess? And in the studio, I do have two individuals, Khao and Towela. I would say, I don't know, we'll get back to the conversation where I say, are you successful in the field, and how do we determine success within the creative industry for everybody else to be able to have an understanding of it? Well, 11:13 is your time, and this time check is brought to you by Malapo Motors.
Did we mention that we play the best music? Well, we play the best music. Gabs FM.
Well, Gabs FM, power to engage your world. 11:14 is your time. If you're only joining us now, remember you are on Power Weekend with myself, Tshepo, and in the studio I've got Towela, who's a photographer, and I also got Khao. Khao, what do we say? What do we say you are? What do we say? I mean, with Towela, I can say photographer, even though there's like plus other things that she does. What do we say you are?
Me, I am
an artistic director.
That's the role that I play in a particular project.
Space. Yeah,
in a particular project. Yeah. But I'm an artist myself. But even though now I've gravitated more towards arts management.
Okay.
Yes, and
arts
the business,
management. Okay.
Yeah, arts management and the business of the creative arts.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to get to the question that I think the reason why a lot of people are concerned when it comes to the creative space is that, is it possible to sustain one's life being a creative?
Are you talking about Botswana or just
Botswana?
Generally?
I think I'm going to move it to Botswana, and because context, yeah.
Right.
I mean, it depends who you are. It depends who you are and how hard you push. I know people who wake up in the morning to do music. I know people who wake up in the morning to do what I do. I mean, I've been working until the last. I left my job in April last year. So for the past 8 months, so I've just been pushing this in the industry. And so it depends who you are. It depends how you position yourself. There are people who are able. It's not everybody who can succeed in doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
And I could say that, it goes for every profession. Do you know what I mean? So if you're going to become, say, I don't know. What example can I give? Let me think about it. But success in the creative industry, it depends who you are. We know there are people who wake up to make music, and music has been their life, and they've built, businesses, they've built houses, they put children through school just with that. Yeah. So it's not for everybody. You know what I mean? So there are people who are meant to work, and can we just let them work? And there are people who are meant to hustle in the creative arts, and there are those who get it. And they win, they succeed. I know photographers who just live on photography. I know artists, visual artists who just draw for a living.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And so it really depends. Yes.
Okay. So it depends on who you are, what the art form that you are in, and how much you push.
How hard you push.
Work ethic. It always comes down to work ethic.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we say push, I mean, I'm interested. When we say push, what do we mean? How hard you push? What exactly does that mean? Because to me, it sounds like, if I'm to break it down, it really sounds like you understanding the industry, you understanding positioning, you understanding branding,
right?
You understanding marketing,
right?
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it still goes back to being equipped with these skills to be able to push.
Yes. So you are the business.
Yeah.
You are the business. You are this brand that is going to sell, your product or your services. Do you know what I mean? So you need to understand all of that. You need to understand that you are the business. So if you don't look after that talent that you have, if you don't take it out to people, if you don't find ways of taking it out to people, of making people know that you exist in that space and that you can offer quality. Yeah. So let's stand at this how at a certain level for you to be able to succeed. And so all that you said is spot on.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it in. For me, I know that like when I started out in the creative industry, I was obviously a student. I started at 15. So I was doing my Form 4. And I was, because there's this misconception a lot of people have when you enter the creative industry, if you are not so good in your academics. I was like an exceptional student. And I remember there were so many kind of hesitations surrounding, why is she going into this? And my mom would have to get called into school sometimes, again, because there was a certain level of professionalism I wanted to maintain. So I wouldn't tell clients, oh, listen, I'm in class, I'll deliver your photos later. You know what I mean? I had to maintain a certain kind of... The way that I introduced myself into the industry was in a certain way. Again, because I was so young, there was a lot that I had to prove and kind of compensate for. And so my mom, one thing she said to me was, you have to have a plan. And I had to sit my mom down, give her like a 15-page presentation and say, look, this is what my plan is. And because today, 3 years into the plan, she's able to see that I've implemented everything that I told her 3 years ago. She's able to have so much more respect for where I'm going and so much support. Because where parents are concerned, you have to understand that when you are born, right, there's all these, I come from a very, I don't know if technical is the word, but I come from a very hardcore family. My dad is a quantity surveyor. A lot of my siblings are into engineering, master's degree graduates. And so there's that expectation, or Twala's going to follow into that. Twala's going to follow into that. And so for me to decide to steer into the creative industry, I think for me, there was a lot of proving. I had to prove myself a lot. There were teachers that would say things. I had to find that balance regardless of whether I'm in school or not. And I think even if you're a student, that should still be your priority. You must learn balance, because whether or not in the future, you're still going to have to learn how to multitask anyways. So you might as well learn it as soon as possible. And really where, like I said, parents are concerned, getting to a place where you understand they had this whole vision for how your life would role play 20 years, like from the minute you were born. And you have to understand, for them to kind of do away with that vision, you have to prove yourself like immensely on a whole other level and kind of be patient with them enough to get to the place where they're able to embrace your vision. And that only comes with having a plan.
Now, how obviously, I mean, you are in the creative space, but also you've worked with a lot of young people and you continue to work with young people. What do you find has been the experience for them? They get on stage, they do absolutely beautifully. You know, there's all this raving about how wonderful they are. Do they now, what is that thought with regards to school?
A lot of people enter the creative industry looking for fame. Instant fame. They think it'll just happen. But unfortunately,
it doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that. So a lot of them, admire. I mean, they look up to people. A lot of people, especially in South Africa, they'll tell you, "Yeah, I dropped out of school, out of varsity in second year, because then I left. Then I left to go to Johannesburg, where I started. And this, look, now I'm successful." So they look up to those people. But I know people who have gone through school. They've refined their craft, and now they are out there and they are working because they have that academic grounding. And I just want to tell you, for South Africa right now, all the producers, all these big shows that you see on television are going for people who are trained. Yeah, who are trained. They have made it very clear, Barry, we don't want to work with cover girls. We don't want to work with models. We don't want people about social media. There's no talent in them. All they have is it's a Facebook. We want talent that has been trained, that has been refined. Yeah. And that comes through training. And so I've got news for people by but feel a lot of them can just drop out of school and what we do value. That's why people look down upon us. Some of us studied for this. We went to school, so we wanted to be respected, and so people were saying about the industry. If you're looking for fame, good luck. Yeah.
So what you're saying is that there has been a perception, maybe in the past, that somebody can just come in without any sort of grounding.
Yes. Yes.
And be able to break into any industry.
Yeah.
But strange enough, though, when you look at those people, because we must also acknowledge the fact that there are those people that probably did go into specific areas of the arts or the creative industry that were not necessarily trained, and they came with what people would say the X factor.
Yes.
So it's the same as watching your idols. Somebody comes in and just they can sing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe they don't have they don't understand what the range is or whatever, but they can
Talent is
they can sing, and then they have to go through. They're not just put in the studio. They will have to then go through this training, and all of that. So are we then, so we are not looking down. We're not dismissing
Talent.
But we are saying
is there. It must be there.
So talent must be there.
Talent must be there.
But it must be accompanied by some sort of grounding.
Yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that academic. It doesn't have to be a degree.
Academic.
It doesn't have to be a degree. It can be some kind of training. You are a business. You can undergo some kind of course so that you understand how to do your personal branding, how you're gonna sell your product. Either your skills, your artworks or whatever. You know what I mean? So some kind of learning must happen for you to be able to understand a full package that will become successful in the industry.
Okay.
And that learning,
that
learning, I feel doesn't stop. Whether you have the degree or you don't, you must commit to always learning and being willing to learn from people in the industry. So I think for me, that's something that's helped me a lot.
Okay. I wanted to ask you, Thobela, you said that you had to present a plan. You had to present a detailed plan to your folks for them to be able to have an understanding of what it is that you are saying you want to do, why are you doing it, how is it going to be sustainable, how are you going to finance it, in preparing for that plan, where would you say you started? And what skills did you need? Because I'm thinking someone is listening thinking, hey man, I must have a plan.
Must have a plan.
So it's one thing to want something, and then it's another to actually have a plan. So where did this plan start?
I think for me, I like that he had spoken earlier about the whole fame of it all, because a lot of people, whether it's having the X factor, all of that, a lot of people can only see into the present state of your craft and being able to kind of bask in sunshine and the glory of your recent project that did well, etc. And so a plan comes from saying, look, I love and I appreciate what's going on in my life right now, but I do want to take it further. And there are certain things I want to establish and kind of reach over the next couple of years and turn this into a career. So it comes from being able to look at the continuity of what's going on in your life right now and kind of build a seriousness towards that. And so for me, I don't know if I recall well, but I remember my mom was like, okay, you can take nice pictures and that's cute, adorable, clap hands, good for you, but I want to understand, why do you do this? Okay, you can take pictures, anyone can take pictures, and it's the truth. Anyone could learn. I could teach you how to take pictures in 1 week. I did it with, I did a photography workshop and taught people how to take pictures in 1 week, as good as me, you know what I mean? So I think for me, it's getting to a place where you understand, I want to create a long-lasting impact with my work. And there's a certain way I want to present myself to the world. There's certain things there's a certain way I want to appear. So for me, it wasn't just photography. And I think over the next years of the unraveling of my career, you'll begin to see that it was never just photography. Photography was the starting point. And maybe by then you'll be able to see how this period of my life will connect to it will have a trickle-down effect in several other areas of my life. So it's developing something that's bigger than just your craft. Looking at the impact it will leave, looking at, most importantly, I feel the social impact, which is something I feel a lot of people tend to overlook. But you must be able to look at how what you're doing can benefit others, whether you have to teach what you do, whether you have to offer scholarships to teach people how to do what you do, whatever it may be. Just look at how it can impact other people and create how you can create and establish a good footprint in the industry that says, I was here, I did this, and I did it like this. So looking at the how you implement what it is that you do, the how is more important than the what you do.
Oh my. 11:27 is your time, and we are having a conversation in the studio around surviving in the creative industry. And I do have Tshepo Maphanyane in the studio. I also have Towela Kamenga. How do I pronounce?
It depends. Kamanga is my mom's surname. Okay. I get cams from, people say cameras. People in school used to say cameras cam, so they felt like it went, it had a nice ring to it. My surname is Tembo though.
Okay, so, she rhymes. They give me whichever one. So Towela Tembo is in the studio, and Khao is in the studio, and we're just having a conversation around surviving the creative industry. Yeah, no. From what they're saying, I think if you are listening, I'm hoping that your mind is being open to a bigger picture, as we say. It's not just about getting on stage and performing, and people screaming. It's about and then what? And then what? What is what next? What is the story? What is the legacy that you're building? Yeah. Is this just generally how and I ask you this because, like I say, you've worked with just about everybody, and this is like different forms of the arts. Are you finding that is how the creatives in Botswana are positioning themselves about legacy and wanting to do something that means more, something that has got a social impact, like Towela is saying?
We're still, because the industry is still at an infancy. We are still just we're still just all over the place. Do you know what I mean? We're still all over the place. There are people though who are working on that, but that's mainly people in management. People in arts management. Okay. But the artists, they just want to just give out the work that they do. Yeah, they just want to share. It's about when am I releasing the next hit? When is my next theater production? When is you know what I mean? So to a point where people are just building legacies. So I know there's a number of managers who have established projects they're going to continue running to precede them. And it's hard to build that. So I mean, an example, with his
double HP
conference, with this music conference that he's built. I think it's been running for 2 years, and I see it growing, growing and growing.
I make mention of when you say Sabelo, because for the longest time his name was synonymous with double HP in Botswana.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I remember thinking, this guy is massive. I mean, we saw him on TV. He would have these endorsements, but at the same time, it still felt like, where's the money?
Yes.
You understand what I mean? We were very, because we attach the popularity to money.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where I don't know if we're able to break that down. There's an artist that is celebrated, an artist that is known, but at the same time, they don't seem to be in that environment of the lavish lifestyle, the whatever. Do you think this is where maybe the challenge is, understanding what the arts is about, the talent and building the business, and then the flashiness?
Yes. So I think you gave a very good example. So Agagibu Amuno is building a legacy. So he's not about the lavishness, the expensive and fast cars. And so those will come. Those will be enjoyed by his children and his grandchildren because he would have built structures. Then people will just plug into the structures that he's built and continue. So in that he's gonna enjoy the royalties, and those are going to benefit. I
like that. That's very interesting. I think for me, your question was looking at legacy and in terms of building that and all of that. I think for me, I'm also kind of focused on that in the long term. I call it the cumulative effect of my work, which is in the future when you look back at every single thing I've done, I want you to be able to be like, that's why she did what she did here, and that's how it impacted that and that and that. Because when you look at the creative industry, and especially in Botswana, where we're still growing, we're still expanding in that territory, we have to be patient with the journey to getting to a place.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Where we're able to financially gain in a way that can even sustain our livelihoods. Of course, there are people that are able to do that right now, but we should be patient with our individual journeys building towards that moment. And so for me, something that helped me is also when I was 15, I met a man that changed my life. His name was Mr. Saidi Mdala. I don't know if you know him. He's been on Gabs FM quite a few times. And he's a life coach and author and a motivational speaker. And what I call him Uncle Saidi. What Uncle Saidi did for me is he did a program at my school called the OFID, One Foot in the Door program. It was a 40-hour program. And during the course of that program, we would sit down, talk about our passions, but he would talk about kind of looking at a legacy and how to build that and why you do what you do. And that's kind of also what helped me kind of pitch to my mom and say, this is how I want to do what I do. Something that he said during our first session, because I remember at the time I was like, no, I think I was just in a negative space. I didn't really look at pursuing my passion. I think I was frustrated at the fact that I wasn't doing my passion and I was in school. And something he said during the first session, he introduced something called personal philosophy. And he said it consisted of 4 things, being your values, your mission, your vision, and I'll remember the 4th one as we go. But it all accumulates to your purpose, finding your purpose and building longevity out of that and continuity out of that. And so I'm actually going to be interviewing him tomorrow on my Instagram, and it will be later put on my website. But that's another tool that could help people kind of get to a place where they see the bigger picture, because no one was just blessed with crafts just to do them in general. It always connects to something bigger. You have to believe that in order to walk into that being a legacy. So yeah, I think for me,
that's interesting. How much time are we spending considering what our craft is meant to do or meant to achieve? Now that's a new one. Yeah,
purpose. It always builds to
how much
purpose.
time are we spending though? I mean, how you obviously mentor these youngsters. How much time do you spend on purpose? Apart from wanting to get, let's say it's a play, you want to get a great performance to stage for an audience. How much time is spent now with the performers themselves to almost have an understanding of the purpose? Yes, they can get on stage, put on this amazing performance for an audience, but what do they get out of, the performance for themselves?
I think each of the people that I engage with have got their own definition of what it is that they get out of what they do, and so I'm not sure I'll be able to successfully answer that question. But Hella, it's very important that you identify your purpose, and once you've done that, then you'll push it, you'll pursue it, you will love it. And when you live your purpose, everything just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I just want to give an example. It might just make people understand a little bit about finding one's purpose. So it's when I was studying, I interacted with a lot of people from the rest of the continent, Africa. In a lot of cases, countries like your DRCs, your Kenyas, So when these guys leave to go to school, a lot of them, come to school in South Africa, go to school in South Africa. When they leave home, their parents would give them one-way ticket to go home, to leave, go to either Cape Town or Johannesburg. So how they fund themselves going back home, they will sort themselves out when they get there.
Are you serious?
Yes. I mean, I came across a number of my friends who said, dude, this has to work. It has got to work. I'm going to make it work. I'm going to work in restaurants. I'm going to study hard. I'm going to find 2 jobs. So, we're just chilling because at the end of the month, an allowance
Mommy, daddy.
An allowance was coming
the government.
from government, the Botswana.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So these guys will get this one-way ticket to accommodation for like a month or something.
A month.
A limited time.
What? Yeah, limited time.
I hear you.
2
I
or
hear
3
you.
months.
Yes. Okay.
But when they get there, it's got to work. And I think, if you're going to decide how you're going to quit school, that for me is a one-way ticket. You just have to make it work. You have to make it work.
Yeah.
So there's no turning back. There is no so these guys, and they will make it work. So by the end of the 4 or 5 years, degree, they've already secured a job. They've been working at a restaurant. They've been able to pay their rent. They've been able. Some of them would buy a car. Do you know what I mean? So, and they worked really, really hard.
But they had to put in the work. I think maybe that's the key thing.
Yes,
they have to put in the work.
Yeah.
Okay. So that being the case, then how much support does one then, how do we relekanyetsa the support, especially from guardians or parents,
Yeah, you see now, because
often people talk about tough love. Do you do we give tough love? Like how much, where does the parent now have to say,
you feel
this
supported,
is it?
but you also feel like you're being given the opportunity to stand on your own 2 feet. I don't know how my mom found a balance, because for me, I remember there was a point where she was like, she used to say, if you leave my house and you're going for a photo shoot, don't come back without a paycheck. She would literally say that to me. So it was a thing of, if you're going to leave this house with that camera, if I'm seeing you with that camera leaving my house, come back with money. Let me see what you've done. And so for me, that made me grow up a lot. It makes you mature, because I'm very young, because I'm 18. And it makes you mature a whole lot. You jump a lot of steps and get to a place where you're like, okay, this has to work. But I think also it's looking at it from defining success for yourself, whether it's short-term success, like, okay, what does it mean to be winning in this era for me? Because sometimes it's not money. Sometimes the money will stop coming. Especially, I like that he spoke about, so to speak, a point of no return, where you choose to have that one-way ticket. Because once you choose that path, there is no turning back.
Yeah.
And something my mom would say is that people watching, the teachers, the people that said you wouldn't be able to do it, they're there, they're listening. You know what I mean? So you have to always be able to be aware of that and make it work, and make all of it worth it. All the tension and pressure that you got from people, making it worth it, and being able to do something that not only brings fulfillment for you, but brings long-term success for you.
Okay.
So yeah, I think it deals with, it kind of encompasses a lot of things all at once, but it's very important to consider the kind of success you want for yourself and what you want to build, and how to get the people in your life to understand that. Being patient, like I said, with them, because you have to be patient. Till date, I still have to sit down and explain to Mama, okay, this, that, okay, this, that. Because sometimes you'll be doing things and in that moment, the success of it is not seen.
Okay.
And like things like my exhibit, for instance, that's stuff that, like I said, will only make sense maybe 2-3 years from now. And you have to be able to sit down, be patient, like, Mom, okay, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. I will make it work. For me, I didn't have finances to get a brand manager and all of those things. So I had to learn those skills for myself. So a lot of the cool thing about the creative industry is you can learn some of these things. For branding, you can learn these things. And that's why we have, I like that at the beginning of the show, you explained how from being an artist manager, you branched into so many things. I think that's the case for a lot of creatives. If you're very serious about it, you get to a point where you want to be in-house as an individual. You want to be able to do everything for yourself. So you learn those skills so you don't have to necessarily always seek financial support. You learn it for yourself. You go and you sit under certain professional people, and you kind of learn from them, and you implement in your life and see what works.
Okay. 11:42 is your time. You are on Power Weekend, and the conversation is around surviving in the creative space, especially, or should I say specifically, to the Botswana space, if you will. So if you're one of those people that is thinking, tomorrow it's a Monday, I have to go to work, I really genuinely don't want to be doing that. And you know, at the back of your mind, you know what it is that you would rather be doing. Well, this is a conversation that you ought to be listening to. If you're a parent and you are dealing with a young person that is telling you, I'm not doing school, or they're not telling you, they've just decided to stop doing school. And you're finding yourself you're finding yourself in that position. This is a conversation that I would like for you to be a part of, and you can do that. I mean, you can call us on 3956-962, or you can always send us a text message at 14962.
All the hits, all the time. Gabs FM.
11:44 is your time. Welcome to Power Weekend, and this is Gabs FM, power to engage your world, having a conversation about surviving the creative industry, an industry that continues to really, in all honesty, celebrate Botswana in its whatever you call it. I mean, if you talk in terms of, and that's the thing, I mean, arts is diverse. You know, arts is diverse. You know, we're finding that there are painters, there are, you know, singers or performers, there's theater, there is drama, there is graphic design, there is
fashion,
there's fashion
as well,
there's architecture.
There's so many, and that's the thing. I don't think people realize that the creative space, it is so broad, it's massive. I was gonna say, looking at Botswana specifically, when we talk about the creative space, or when we talk, being an artist, do you find that the assumption is always that people are singers? Do you find that creative space is always associated to the stage?
Yes.
And then we lose out on maybe a bigger, greater conversation we ought to be having, because the creative space is quite broad.
Yeah. No, that's very true. So a lot of people don't understand it. It's a fairly new industry. They just recently included it as one of the sectors that could be looked into to diversify the economy. And so it's fairly new. So but bonela ba itela gore gona le hopela. They think that's about it. Like you are architecture as creativity. It falls within the creative arts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That being the case, where then do people start? I mean, if somebody is thinking, I really would like to get a better understanding of the creative industry, because, like I'm saying, you have parents that are faced with, you know, let's say Towela's mom, who's probably thinking, what is this child saying? You know, and maybe she's thinking, as a parent, I need to invest a little bit of time and research in understanding where she's coming from. Where would you say one ought to start?
I think for me, like you rightfully gave my mom as an example, every time as I move forward, every step that I take, I tend to always look at my younger self and look at what she would have done better, or what she would have had around her to kind of better the whole process of getting my parent to understand, or getting people to understand. And so I think that's why for me I developed and I recently launched the website being towelacams.com with the K cams. And over the next couple of months, years, because I do hope that it becomes a long-term kind of project, I'll be looking into creative development. I'll be looking into social media management and looking into personal branding, business management. I have professionals in Cape Town and in Zambia and in Botswana that will all collectively have these conversations, not only regarding kind of how to get into the industry, but really establishing the seriousness that we feel is really greatly lacking in terms of getting the creative industry to be responsive in terms of getting people to understand what it's about and how important it is and why we should support the arts and support the creative industry. So I've done my bit in creating and being part of the solution by doing this website that I feel young people and certainly someone who was in my position when I was 15 could benefit from. So that's my personal kind of take on the matter, and I hope that it will grow and become something bigger over time.
Okay.
I think, if, for instance, your child tells you already they want to pursue this line of work, I think engage with people who are in the industry so that they can explain to the child what it is that, what the industry entails. So thing blind, so that and be involved in that conversation as a parent, so that you understand and you appreciate what it is that your child is doing, is wanting to go into, so that there is a full understanding of what kind of support are they going to require, and stuff like that. So I think engage. There are people like myself. I'm happy to talk to people, to tell them about the reality of the situation, to mentor. I mean, recently a good friend of mine, and I so happened to be producing a radio drama, and I got her involved in that. Okay. And she's loving it.
That's really cool.
If this was a different place, and she's really having a great time. Wow. Do you know what I mean? And so it's that those kind of experiences that would as a parent educate you about the life that your child is wanting to go, the direction that your child is wanting to take. So be involved in that. Bua le batho ba ba leng temo industry ba ba tlhaloganya ba ba ka go tlhalosetsang wa bona ronza ba ka tlhalosetsang ngwana gago, to give them the pros and cons, the consequences, the ups and downs of the industry.
I like when you say the exposure. And I don't know, and I want to, and there's a point that I really want to get back to, which I don't want to forget, which I wanted to ask you, Tawela, specifically. Are you staying at home?
Yeah,
you're staying at home. So I want, I will come back to that, but just keep it in mind. I want to know the balance with regards to being a child, more like being where there are rules,
that must be followed.
Because the creative industry, and this is the truth, the creative industry it's not a 9 to 5, 8 to 5. The rules are so different from the norm, so much that if you have no idea, it doesn't make sense. Especially to a parent, it does not make sense. So I wanted to be able to, get back to that. But I also wanted to say the exposure that we speak of, which I find interesting. You'll find a young person, or maybe I'll just say, you'll find someone. Because we have young people like Tawela who are, very smart, very grounded. And then you have a young person that says, I want to be on radio, And I know the question that I always ask is, what do you want to do on radio? Because I'm coming from a space where radio has got so many elements. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think 90% of the time, I want people, the young person just wants to talk on radio.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I say, okay, let's accommodate this conversation. So when you say you want to talk on radio, what is it that you want to talk about? What impact does this thing that you have, to talk about have? And also, does it have to be you who's actually talking on radio? Or are you finding that there are certain topics or issues that are not coming to the fore? Are you able to compile them, which will then obviously mean you're getting into the producing space? You know what I mean? Are you able to put it together? You know what I mean? Are you the person that is, when you hear these ads that play on radio, do you ever think, how did they get to that point?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The music that you hear playing, who decides which music is playing? All these buttons that we are pressing, who's making sure I'm able to press these? And you see this young person going, huh? And then it's almost like, this conversation is not how I wanted it to go.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
So they just don't understand.
Yeah.
And so by engaging with people like yourselves, by understanding the industry, you'll be able to break it down to the parent. ultimately okay, no, now that's what I'm interested in, this particular aspect.
But then what do we do when in all honesty, at the end of the day, the young person is not interested in the reality of the industry? Because I'm saying that, look, I'm a broadcasting and journalism student, and I always thought for my classmates, for my former classmates, I felt like they were in heaven. I honestly thought that they had an advantage over others because they had T-Easy, who happens to be the programs manager at Yaron FM. That's huge. He was a classmate. They had Dola, you know, who is celebrated, you know what I mean, as a classmate. They had a Sani Siriti, who is, who's a writer, you know what I mean. They had Bami, who's an editor at Bopa. They had Bami Pete, who was an editor at Mechi. So I just thought, wow, if I was my younger self now,
like this is
class,
you know what I mean? So this is me building a portfolio.
You have the gurus.
This is me building a portfolio, and I cannot speak for the others. I can only speak for myself. But how many young people took up the offer? You know what I mean? How many young people have sort of decided, you know what, I'm going to stick around, and it's a Sunday, the 4 hours that you're on air, I'm going to produce the 4 hours. Because I've said I'm open to that. I'm open to that. Because it's one thing to say, I want to do something. And it's different from doing it.
Yeah.
I love that you're touching on that.
Yeah.
For me, what I've learned, that's where the separation is. Because there's so many people that have nice voices and could be on radio. There's so many people that like pictures and would want to take them. Many. Okay, there's so many. So I think that's where the separation kind of occurs. For me, I call it, I write about it in my journal, I call it sort of, I don't know if there's a better term, but standards of entry. You know, there are barriers of entry to an industry. Now there's standards of entry that is saying, if you're going to enter this industry, this is what is expected for you to succeed. And we're not compromising just because you have a nice voice, just because you have talent. This is what you should do. This is how you should do it. This is the kind of work ethic you should bring to the table. This is what you should be willing to stick through. And if you can't do that, then this can't be for you. You can't pursue this at kind of a professional level. You may have a nice voice, but unless you lack the seriousness, if you're not willing to discipline yourself, which is also very important in terms of the pursuit of your craft and the pursuit of your passion. If you are lacking in discipline, if you're lacking in doing what professionals that are succeeding in the industry, principles that they've built on and that have worked for them, if you feel that somehow you should not do that, that's actually entitlement. That's you thinking everything should fall at your service and on your silver platter just because you have talent. And there's so many people who are gifted. So you must accompany that gift and that talent and that skill with that passion, with skill and with discipline and all those other kind of, it's also a character thing as much as it is a passion thing. You must be willing to refine your character and adjust yourself to be willing to do the work no matter what.
Now,
just coming back to what you say, it's very interesting what you said about the odd hours and stuff like that. This young lady that I was talking about, the daughter to a friend of mine, during the Independence holidays, we were recording, so she had to come. They had to travel to Maun.
So she missed out. On the trip, and that's exactly what Tawela you're saying as well.
Today,
standards of entry.
Today, Sunday, 2 p.m. we are recording, and she'll be there. Do you know what I mean? So people need to understand. You have to grasp. So now she has a full understanding. Involved in these things. This is how it works.
This is how it works.
This is what it means.
It will not change for me. This is how it works.
We used to do rehearsals. Agree. Some people still have jobs. You know. So we used to work to rehearse from 5 to 7. Then Saturdays we are recording. So we realized that if we don't record during the holidays, we will not.
You won't be able to finish the work.
So 2 days study holiday, we were busy working. So now Sunday afternoon, do you know what I mean? So if somebody is not willing to do that,
then it's
can
not
they
for
just
them.
Yeah,
It's
then
not
it's
for
not for
you.
them.
It's not for
Then
them.
find a job Friday 5 o'clock.
O batla go chaisa. Yeah.
Then Monday.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay. So I
Yeah.
don't think anybody should judge people who want to have a 9 to 5.
Yeah, and there's absolutely nothing wrong
There's
with having a
absolutely
9 to
Whatever
5.
works for you.
The
Yeah.
problem
Whatever
is
you're
that
willing to do.
the problem is that you can't get into the creative space if you don't have an appreciation
Yeah.
of what it takes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
Because it takes a lot.
It
And
takes
you
a
go
lot.
through
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
many things. There's this misconception that if you're pursuing your passion, it's a walk in the park and
Yeah.
you wake up inspired and woo, you jump out of bed with a camera and you're like, woo, I want to take pictures. Like, it's not like that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it does get stressful. And also that's why purpose is your ground. It's
Yeah.
your fundament. It's what holds you together, where
Okay.
you're able to see the bigger picture. So all these things are very, very important in understanding this is not just you doing something you love. It's so much bigger than that. You must respect that, and you must respect what it takes to be able to pursue that.
Okay.
You
well,
have to
I'm going to
build.
say I need to play this ad, and then I'm going to come back. Two things, adding on to what I said about talking about balance, especially in the home, and then I want you guys to maybe break down the importance of money. I just, if we can touch on that, that would be fantastic.
It's time to get down with low prices and awesome giveaways. Visit your nearest Pick n Pay and take advantage of our great deals and start jiving when you get 2 liters assorted Rose 100% fruit juice blend for only $20.45 each, or 750 mils of Pick n Pay Ultra Lemon dishwashing liquid refill for $11.75 each. Pick and jive with Pick n Pay. Prices valid from 26 to 28 October 2018. While stocks last, only at Pick n Pay Botswana. T's and C's apply. See in store for more details.
Well, Gabs FM Power to engage your world. Literally, it's just a minute before 12 o'clock. I am abusing my guests. They are in the studio. The conversation is surviving the creative industry, a conversation that so many of us are interested in, especially looking at the fact that, there's purpose, there's passion, and then there's surviving, because at the end of the day, even though we're encouraged to look to doing things that, speak to you, people say, when you do something that speaks to you, you'll be a happier individual. But the truth be told, though, there are bills to be paid.
Yes.
There's a mortgage. That camera is not cheap to develop and do this. And, it's not cheap. The travel that is involved is not cheap. The look and feel of producing, you have to book the studio time. You have to pay, whatever, the professionalism. So because everything does require money, money is important.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think... I'm trying to say it, I think, from both ends, as a creative and also to those that engage with the creative, because like I said early on, there's that thing of, I think recently DJ Fresh had put up a post, I think, and everybody went in, and I think this was on Instagram, where he said, what's this thing about I'll pay you with exposure? I mean, really now?
Oh my God.
And this is DJ Fresh, you know what I mean? Like, so I want to ask both of you, especially to how, because obviously with the experience and the years that you've been in the industry, where's the balance? One, you need to build a portfolio, and I want us to connect it to the standards, because I really like that, Toela, about the standards of entry,
Right.
into the industry. What is the balance there? What is this exposure, and how every artist will tell you how they hate that word exposure. I personally don't hate it. I just think that there's a misunderstanding
Yeah,
of what
that's
it
true.
is
Yeah.
and how it should be packaged.
Yes.
Yeah.
Honestly, we have to start by digging the trenches. So the trench exposure, you get exposure when you are starting out. I don't need exposure. Where I'm at in my life right now. Tshepo, you don't need exposure.
Right.
Do you understand? Someone who is starting out, talking exposure, but exposure doesn't pay the bills. But people must understand, you need to build your portfolio. So you build your portfolio by volunteering, by shadowing people, by understudying people. So that building experience, you can't expect money from that, but you are investing in your craft. Do you understand? And so it's very important that people understand. a lot of people that I've come across in our nela or motho ha simolla a sna go releasa one single I want 20,000 but mentla o duetse semamman 20,000 but you're not Sereti, you're not V. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, or you've emceed a few gigs and it's like you know. And maybe that's the other thing I maybe that is a challenge for creatives, because you have people that have dug the trenches, that have been there. And then you have a young person or whoever that comes in, maybe has a single. We're using that as an example.
Yeah, as an example.
Has a single and then maybe gets the MC gig, for instance. And then now they're an MC. You get what I mean?
Exactly.
And
so and then they like they would expect how about we allow go tshwana le Tshepo?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Or Tshepo re bata madi a mantsi, so we will not engage Tshepo.
Then we'll go
engage that person.
For too much.
Which then means we're not aiding that creative to grow.
Yeah.
Because for me, exposure is not just about clocking the hours. It's about getting the feedback. It's about refining the art. It's about Liwena saying, this is the kind of creative I want to be. This is how I want to, build my brand, to build myself.
Yes.
I always say to people, I always laugh at the fact that when it comes to MC, I'm like, whoever said MCs must be funny? You don't need to be funny.
No.
Being a master of ceremony has got nothing to do with being a comedian. You're not a comedian.
Yes.
So if you want to hire a comedian, hire a comedian.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Let's not even have that conversation.
Yeah.
You know?
I like that.
So I find that people, both from the creative industry and from the consumers of the products of the creative industry don't have an understanding of what is what. And then when Khao comes with the standards, it's like,
and then
Khao is so we're gonna put
I have seen that exploding in the faces of a lot of corporates. Whereby I would put in a code, I want 80,000. But how we target mangene? I want 80,000 for who? For why?
Why would we do that?
Yeah. Then they go and find somebody who's quoted 6,000. That person comes, they mess up the event. Now, build up. Build up where you need to present concepts, you need to do this, that, and the next thing. So that person is unable to do that. Now, how was it 2 days? They call you.
How come back?
Yes.
Please come and save us. Yeah.
And then I'm like, now I want 120,000.
Yeah, because really now you're going to make me work double time to catch up.
Yes.
Because it's 2 days. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Or
they go through with that person and then they completely mess it up. Now they have everybody there. The event is there. The top people are there. The CEOs are there. And then it now reflects badly on them as organizers. So then the following year, it's like,
we need to make sure we get.
No, you have to come now.
But you're still also not willing to pay the 120,000 because you are thinking Khao must just do you a favor because Khao.
No, but this time around, they start understanding why you're charging that.
Yeah.
Because now they know
lucky,
they have seen your work. They know what standard is.
Okay.
And so then you deliver, and it's like, so I mean, I've seen that happening.
Yeah, a lot.
I love that because we were speaking actually earlier before we entered the studio about the concept of, you were explaining how with corporates that's how it's like, and I was explaining to him that we need to get to a place where corporates understand I'm not just picking a photographer, I'm picking Tawala Camps. And I'm picking her for this reason. Now, if you're looking for just someone to take pictures, you can find them anywhere. You can find them anywhere.
That is so true.
So you need to get to a point where you're like, Tshepo has that thing. I can't find that anywhere. Whether you've been doing this or that, Tshepo has that thing.
Or Tshepo is able to interpret my brief the way that I want it.
It's in our vision for what we want. It aligns with her vision for her brand.
Okay.
Do you see what I mean?
I see what you mean.
And it all correlates well in a way that reflects good for both of us, not just for my brand, but for Tshepo as well. A win-win situation. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that's so important with corporates. I think that's always what they miss out. I'm just gonna pick a photographer.
So that we're not picking on corporates, I will say to the consumers
in general, yeah.
Because there can be individuals, there can be you can
services.
engage a photographer privately. You can, engage a photographer as an agency. So really, we're saying if you are consuming products from the creative industry, you must also have an understanding of how it works. I mean, I know when you say, especially like photographers, someone can present 2,000 pictures and I cannot find a single picture to use for a report.
Yeah.
And people are like, what do you mean? I'm like, no. This is why you don't hire a photographer and you don't have a conversation.
And I
There's
think
no brief.
That's true. It goes both ways, I feel, because if you're going to have a photographer or whatever it may be, you must both have a vision. Me, if I'm going to say, I need an artist manager, right? I need to say, okay, why do I need an artist manager? And I have an explanation. I have a brief that I present to you. And then similarly, like you were saying earlier, you now report back, this is how. You have that breakdown of this is how the budget is like. This is for this. And you should be able to respect that budget and respect that whole list of expenses and not kind of disrespect it by saying, oh, but I will not. People will say, oh, we want a photo shoot, but I don't need the makeup. I don't need the this. I don't need that. And I'm like, what? So you just need someone to take pictures of you? Is that all you want? You know, so you should be able to have that kind of conversation where I have an expectation from you. You have an expectation from me. And we're both fulfilling that.
Yeah.
And that should always be the case.
Yeah.
It should never be just one way.
It's very interesting, Tshepo, and so what we were saying earlier, and we're not how we are, it's not just a photographer or somebody who will take pictures. I mean, I know people by Langhore don't have photos of their weddings. Because somebody, a professional photographer on a robot 18,000, then 1.5. Then they went to 1.5. So
the industry.
and they went for 2 days. How did the photo disaster?
And it's a wedding, you can't take that back.
So you can't.
But you can't try and reproduce.
You cannot
can't.
reproduce.
It's not the same.
You know what I mean? So those memories are gone. If you had invested and paid more to a professional, my dear I deserve to give you memories for your big day.
I want to say this though, because I feel like the conversation around money is always misinterpreted, because you could pay the professional, and truth be told, and I say this because I've had those incidents. You can pay the professional who still doesn't capture your vision, who still does not interpret your brief. And because the professional comes in with, I'm a professional, is not interested in hearing you. It just is, feels bigger. I'll do my own thing. I cannot be told. I cannot be told what to do. True. And then when on the other side, you're thinking, okay, let me not harass
It's
myself.
weird because in the creative industry, a lot of people have that. The client is right. A lot of creatives don't follow. They feel like, no, but now my vision, guys. As long as I want this, the client must follow that vision.
But sometimes you need to do that to save the client. You need to listen to them.
If you know best.
But
you should explain to them and they should understand.
Absolutely.
There must be common ground.
There must be some kind of understanding here. Yeah. So you must meet somewhere.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases, a client would want something, it's absolutely not practical. But you need, as a creative, you need to explain to them what I don't think the way you want it would work. This is my suggestion.
Here's my suggestion. Does it work for you? Yeah. And you incorporate what they want a little bit of that into it.
Because ultimately they
They're the
have
client.
to be happy.
It's their thing.
Yeah.
I'm looking at how and Toela having this conversation. But in any case, literally it's like 12-12, it's 12-12. And I really want Toela to maybe touch on the issue of balance, especially as a young person staying at home where there are rules. So Toela, mom says you can't leave. What do you mean you've got to shoot gun 9 p.m.?
My mom is dramatic, guys.
No, she's not dramatic. And is mom listening?
I hope she is.
And mom can call, please, if you are listening, because Sowela just called you dramatic. I mean,
No, she's not dramatic, but she... because...
You see these young people and the words we use. We get into trouble for that.
No, she's not dramatic, but she's... It can be, you've not done this chore. Yeah, no, you're not going out.
Yeah.
You're not going...
And does she stick to her guns when she says that?
Yeah, and I think she does it because it's over time helped me understand, like, you must be able to still fulfill your duties.
You must be accountable and responsible. You can't be staying in someone's house.
A whole house.
Yes, my parents used to say,
go get
under whose roof?
Under whose roof? Go and do that under your house.
It was just your own place. So my parents were very clear, you know. So bana ba malapa a mangwe, how bana ba malapa a mangwe? They were very clear. So if other youngsters were allowed to do whatever it was, that was their business.
Yes.
But you cannot claim.
Not in my house.
So and so is allowed. My parents.
They were not having it.
They were not having it. You know. So are you then saying, as a creative, especially a young person, you do need to listen to your folks?
No, you must. You must. It's not even you must.
It's not a need. It's a must.
You must. I've had to do the chores. I've had to do the things that
the compromising.
The compromise. And that is why at the end of the day, I say she has respect for what I do.
Yeah.
Because I'm able to fulfill, first of all, my core duty as a daughter. And then I'm a creative second. Apart from everything that I'm all fails, I'm still her daughter. So I must fulfill that. And then I go on to do, the creative work out there. But you must be able to be available for whatever your parents need. You must be able to do, still young. Because, sometimes if you enter the industry, because you're in this world and there's professionals and in this world, when I joined, there were not so many young people. I actually only knew like Fifi Lo and a couple other people as photographers. So I didn't have like many people my age. So, you have this misconception that, I'm a photographer, so I'm like all these other people. Those other people are people with their own houses, pay their own rent, pay their own office rent. You know what I mean? All those things. So, you must be able to understand as mature as you may seem, you're still a child, you're still young. There's still so much to learn. There's still so many lessons to learn. And you must be able to be patient with that process and find a balance. You must find a balance. You must not dismiss your parents just because you're on this, passion journey.
I'm creative and passionate.
That's
a good point. Yeah.
Or if you started making, because some people start making money at a very young age. No, it's not right.
Yeah, and I think for me, I would give my mom, just to bless her, give her a money from all of my paychecks. So there was that kind of, I learned responsibility as a result. Now, it's different if you're making money, because obviously if you're making money as a kid, I'm not paying rent, I don't have those kind of responsibilities. So it's always important to kind of contribute where you can, just as a child, to say thank you for allowing me to do what I do. Thank you for not getting in the way and respecting my creative space in order for me to create and be what I want to be out there. And here's just a bit of that to say thank you. So it also comes, you learn responsibility very early. And there's a lot of lessons packed into that. So you shouldn't, I'm making money, I got my first paycheck. And the first paycheck, you always assume it's so much money. So you're like, I got this amount of money. But you must be able to still, I think you learn humility, which is also very important, because that will take you places. You must be humble.
Okay. Well, I'm literally going to close the subject matter there. We got more than we had actually thought. And of course, it's a continued conversation. So I can have Khao and Towela back at any time if you want us to expand on it. And that so many different avenues that we can look at and concentrate on. But I'm hoping that the conversation has been an eye-opener for you. And yes, as a parent, you do have those rights to tell and shape your child into what it is that is important. And as the creative, whether young or old, you have the responsibility to engage with your parents, have that plan, be able to, don't wait to be asked questions. Present the plan, and then the questions will follow. And where there are gaps, I'm sure the parents will be able to fill those gaps. They may at any point be very
Yeah, you must do it.
They must be they might be skeptical. I mean, I'll say this and we're ending on this one. I know for the longest time, the conversation about school has always been, Tawela, you did say you come from a family where, and I think for most people in Botswana, that is the case.
Yeah.
We all know you go to school. You all go to school and then you get a job. That's how all of us were conditioned. And I did not go to varsity when everybody else went to varsity. My friends, everybody.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, I was very clear on what I wanted to do, but also very confused. The confusion came from the fact that there are expectations. There are expectations to what it is that you ought to be doing. And you're trying to accommodate without even realizing it yourself. You're trying to accommodate the perceptions and the assumptions.
That's true, yeah.
And then the next thing you know, years have passed and you still have not done anything.
Yeah,
and your
that's
parents are
possible.
just on some, you know what, we can't handle this. This is just
Go back.
This is just
Go back.
nonsense.
This is what we were avoiding. This is what we told you would happen.
I mean, my parents didn't. They just said to me, the conversation was very clear. We will never, from this day forth, we will never have a conversation with you about school. We're just going to just because clearly
That's what you want.
you know what I mean? And life shows you or experiences
That's
or whatever.
so true.
And then whatever you yourself as an individual feel will come. You can't lie to yourself, hey? You can't lie to yourself.
Yeah.
So whether you're doing it for people or you're doing it for whatever, at some point you have to face
Your own,
Always
you have to
your
face
own reality.
you.
Yeah.
Always look at what works for you. I think even whether it's going to school for your passion, whatever it may be, always just look at what works for you as an individual.
But the interesting thing that I wanted to make mention of was that when I then decided to quit work to go to school, I think the first people that were who couldn't breathe over that decision.
It's funny how
were
it
my
works.
parents.
It's funny
They
how it
were
works.
just
And then
I remember my dad saying, you know, ditiro di sa bonwe yana ngwanaka, you know. And then you are left there thinking, all these years.
but like
I mean,
Isn't that
like,
what you
I have been
wanted?
like, you know, I've been the child that did not do right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like
my
what
younger
now?
brothers graduated, my younger sisters graduated. I'm just this person that no one can relate to. You know what I mean? And then I'm telling you, I'm finally doing what you can relate to, and you're saying to me that, you know, Shep. And the thing about it is that a year after graduation, I graduated on October 6th, 2017. A year after graduation, I have not secured what people would term as a job. I have not. Not by choosing. I'm being honest. Not
Right.
by choosing.
Right.
So it goes back to what my parents were saying. However, yes, they're very happy about the decision.
Yes.
But these are the challenges that on a daily basis,
It's true.
as a creative, you are faced with. However, I can't sit at home and cry.
life must go on.
The parents are not going to pay your
Bills
bills.
must be paid.
And the parents will not pay your bills. I will tell you, I'm not a trust fund baby. And I'm saying to you, Tawela, as an 18-year-old, you're no different. I mean, from a creative who's 35, who's 36, who's whatever. You are the real creative. Understanding the fact that you take responsibility for you. Yes, there'll be people along the way that will hold your hand, that will, you know, aid you and all of that.
Support, but at the
But
end
there
of the
is
day-
there's no manual that is sitting. They are not there. They're not there waiting to help you. They will come into your space when you continue to prove
yourself.
yourself.
Must continue to
When you
prove.
continue to prove and you continue to gain that development. So I love the fact that the learning is ongoing. And for me,
Always.
that's it. So I went back to school not because, you know, there was an expectation. The parents had long, you know,
Given up
Yes.
on that.
No, they didn't
Please
give up.
close.
They just thought,
Packed it.
we're going to just close this,
Yeah.
you know, because at the end of the day, at some point, you know, they say you're an adult.
Yeah.
You're no longer living under our roof for us to be telling you what to do. So, yeah, live your life. But then I come back and I'm like, well,
About that.
about that. Yes.
I was so proud when you graduated.
Oh, he was at my graduation.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
He was at my graduation. And I can tell
because we
you,
had the conversation when you started.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Difficult decision.
Man.
It wasn't a difficult decision to make. I think it had been, mulling in my head for quite a while. It had marinated. It had done all kinds of things.
Yeah.
But when I did make the decision, I didn't necessarily consult. You understand? I didn't help everybody in my space.
Is that a good thing?
It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. But the thing is that there are certain things that maybe I would have picked. My mom, my mom said to me, do you realize you didn't plan for the 3 years that you're not going to be working? I didn't.
Right.
I did.
right.
So then it means you're going to get to a point where things are so difficult that you're going absolutely crazy. So my mom said, but then I couldn't see how I could have planned for the 3 years. So if I had stayed and said, let me plan for the 3 years, maybe I would have never made the decision.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Wow.
and just
Thought-provoking.
what you're saying, Tshepo, Kore, if it's time,
It's time.
it's time.
It's time.
That's true.
You.
That's
would
how
know.
I felt.
You'll feel it.
You
You'll
would
feel
feel
That's
it.
how I felt. I was like, it's time.
You know what
Yes.
what steps you should take next.
I
Your
wrote
heart
that.
will
I wrote that
always tell you.
resignation letter.
Yeah.
Had a 10 minutes conversation with my boss. I
If it's time,
press send.
Happens next.
Resign.
Whatever happens next.
if it's time, it's time.
In that
Whether
moment, it
there's
felt right.
7 months salary sitting somewhere
Or not.
or not,
Yeah.
if it's time, you would know it.
You'll know.
So you cannot be told, Hore, no,
Listen
you need
to your heart.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
Well,
that's
12:23 is your time. The conversation got way longer than went on and went on. But I'm hoping that it's a conversation that has been helpful for you, because we live in a world where, someone said to me, what we must remember now is that the world that we live in is completely different from the world of yesteryear. The whole 9 to 5, the whole working in the office, the whole thing of clocking. I mean, you can work anywhere. You can do your work from anywhere. I don't know how many organizations allow for that, because as long as you know what you're supposed to be doing and you're doing it.
Yeah.
But, and a lot of young people, this is the space that they are in. You know what I mean? This is the space that are in. So for a parent that is thinking, I want my child to get this job, work for this company, and all of that. Shem, truth of the matter is that it may be difficult for your child to attain that. If I'm saying to you, I'm finding that it's difficult to attain that, you know what I mean? Even with the qualification,
Right,
even with the
despite,
experience, even with having proved myself, what more for a young person that really has a long way to go? Because that's it. Sometimes it's luck, sometimes it's whatever. You know what I mean? There are all these, elements that need to be considered, especially when it comes to work. And I can only tell you, having a certain qualification, having a certain name, like Batswana will say to you, a certain, knowing certain individuals, it doesn't.